When it comes to iconic sports car racing classes throughout history, the GTE class is certainly up there. Whether you are a fan of a specific manufacturer, team, or you were just enjoying the battles from the sidelines, ask any modern sports car racing fan and they'll probably have a favorite moment to share. The name GTE, Grand Touring Endurance, may have only started in 2011, but the story starts much earlier. GT racing in the late 90s was confusing. Take the 1998 Petit Le Mans, for example, the race most notable for this. But this, right here, is a GT1 car. Supposedly. More on that in a minute. Also in the race were the open cockpit LMP1 prototypes and two other classes of GT cars, GT2 and GT3. You can think of the GT classes as tier-based. GT1 at the top was for the highest performance, highest power production cars on the grid. GT2 consisted of slower production-based cars, and GT3 cars had the least performance but were also the cheapest. Notice how I said production-based cars. Back to the flying Porsche. This is what was known as a homologation special, and Porsche weren't alone with this. Just take a look at the 1998 24 Hours of Le Mans and you'll see Toyota, Mercedes, and Nissan racing GT1 cars that don't exactly look like the cars you've seen on the road. And that's because you haven't. The GT1 regulations of that era only required that one street-legal variant of the car was produced, and that it had enough storage space to fit a standard-sized suitcase. These homologation special cars were every bit purpose-built prototypes that were turned into extremely limited road cars, not the other way around. The secret was out, and the following season, international regulations were changed that would move the homologation specials to the GTP or Grand Touring prototype class, while cars from the former GT2 class now became known as GTS, and the former GT3 cars becoming GT. It's only here, at the turn of the millennium, that GTE as we knew it began to take shape. In the early days of the American Le Mans series, the GT class was a fight between the Porsche 911 and the BMW M3. BMW took the first ALMS GT championship in 1999, with Porsche returning the favor in 2000. In 2001, BMW struck back with a factory program, winning 7 of the 10 races that season, and with it, another championship. Over the next few seasons, manufacturers from the likes of Ferrari, Spyker, TVR, and Morgan had come and gone, but the class was largely overshadowed by GTS, with flashier cars from Corvette, Ferrari, Lamborghini, Pagani, Saleen, and Viper. By the mid-2000s, things seemed to be headed in the same direction. While Panos had replaced their LMP1 program with a new GT2 car in the American Le Mans series, Aston Martin had made their return to the 24 Hours of Le Mans alongside programs in the newly named GT1 class for both the American Le Mans series and the new Le Mans series in Europe. But it was actually here where things started to take an unexpected turn. In 2006, the American Le Mans series had lost all of their privateer GT1 entries, leaving only Corvette Racing and Aston Martin Racing to contest the full season. At the same time, GT2 had just welcomed the new Ferrari F430, run by the factory-supported Risi Competizione team, and a new Porsche 911 RSR based on the 997 generation. Customer racing of GT1 cars in Europe was still strong, but a lot of the cars in the class were starting to feel old, with no sense of manufacturers ready to put out new offerings. By 2007, although Aston Martin did continue to run their factory DBR9 at the 24 Hours of Le Mans and in the Le Mans series, Corvette racing was in a class of their own in the ALMS. Literally, with only privateer Maseratis and one privateer Aston Martin taking part in a couple of races that season. To add insult to injury, the GT2 class was having spectacular finishes like the one we saw at the beginning of the video. So the story continues. In 2008, GT2 got the privateer Aston Martin Vantage, and alas, in 2009, Corvette Racing finally brought the C6R to GT2, and BMW brought back a factory program with the new E92 M3. GT1 racing as we knew it was dead. In 2011, with GT2 having all the factory support over GT1, the class was now the primary GT formula in the American Le Mans Series, European Le Mans Series, and Intercontinental Le Mans Cup, which became the FIA WEC the following year. GT1 and GT2 became GTE Pro and GTE AM in the World and European Championships, and simply GT and later GTLM in IMSA. Finally, as the top GT class in IMSA, ELMS, and WEC, the class was able to grow to record heights. Ferrari brought a new 458 GTE, along with some less successful entries from Lotus and Jaguar. We got an all-new Viper and Aston Martin Vantage GTE in 2012, a new Porsche 911 RSR and BMW Z4 GTE in 2013, and the Corvette C7R in 2014. All of these new cars only added fuel to the fire, and with them came an all-out war for race wins, with some of the million-view YouTube videos we've probably all seen. And just to turn things up even more, in 2016 the regulations were adjusted to make the cars even faster with more downforce than they had before, allowing for tougher racing than they already had, and it didn't take long to reap those benefits. At the 2016 24 Hours of Daytona, the headlines at the beginning of the race were all about the brand new Ford GT, Ferrari 488, and BMW M6. But by the end, it was all about the razor-thin margin between both factory Corvettes, finishing only 0.03 apart from each other in a 24-hour race. As time continued, so did the headlines. Ford winning the 2016 24 Hours of Le Mans ahead of Ferrari, 50 years after doing the same thing in 1966, Porsche bringing yet another new 911 RSR in 2017, showing the world the peak of how a flat-six engine can sound. Aston Martin barely beating out Corvette to win the 2017 24 Hours of Le Mans after giving us an epic battle in the closing laps. In 2018, BMW brought us another new car, the M8 GTE, which returned to the FIA WEC and 24 Hours of Le Mans for the first time since 2011, and brought out the comedic immaturity in the best of us. With LMP1 dwindling, GTE Pro took the spotlight at Le Mans, with a massive 17-car lineup across 6 manufacturers, an arms race between some of the world's largest auto manufacturers to win the world's largest endurance race, not to mention the stacked lineup of GTE AM entrants as well. And then, things started to slow down. Ford had dropped their program at the end of their planned 4-year run from the WEC and IMSA Championships, and BMW followed suit in the WEC. In 2020, Corvette debuted the new C8R to the GTLM and GTE classes, but things already felt a bit short of where they were in previous years. Aston Martin announced that they would be ending their GTE Pro program in 2021 to focus on F1. Porsche ended their factory GTLM program in IMSA at the same time to focus on their new 963 program. And BMW scaled back their GTLM program to only run the IMSA endurance races in 2021, also to focus on their upcoming prototype program. So the fate was sealed. IMSA announced an all GT3-based Pro GT class called GTD Pro to be introduced in 2022, and the WEC removed their GTE Pro class in 2023, before they too introduced the new LMGT3 class next season. A mere 4 years after the peak, GTE is gone. The main question is, how? How did one of the strongest GT classes in history fall in less than 5 years? Well, there are a few factors. As mentioned earlier, some of the factory programs we saw in the GTE ranks have since moved up to the GTP class. We saw that with the likes of BMW and Porsche. But also remember earlier how I said that GT1 died when the factory manufacturers left for the slower but more customer-focused GT2 class? I invite you to look at the replacement for GTE, the slower but more customer-focused GT3 formula. There's no more evident example of this than Corvette Racing, who were all but forced out of the GT1 class when all the other factory teams left. In GTLM, they were the only full-time factory team remaining in the 2021 IMSA Championship, once again forced out to race in the GT3-based GTD Pro class. And so, I'll end this video on a positive note, because while GTE may unfortunately be gone, we'll have up to 10 manufacturers racing for the win in the IMSA GTD Pro category next season, and an equally impressive 9 manufacturers in the new LMGT3 class in the WEC. And if nothing else, perhaps the loss of GTE will help us realize the true potential of GT3.